If you say do not decide but leave the question open, that is itself a passional decision, just like deciding, and is attended with the same risk of losing the truth. The thesis thus abstractly expressed will, I trust, soon become quite clear. Let's go over that thesis again, because it is clear as a mud puddle. Our passional nature not only lawfully may, but must decide an option between propositions, whenever it is a genuine option that cannot by its nature be decided on intellectual grounds. That's part of the key right there. That cannot be decided on intellectual grounds. What the hell is an idea or belief that cannot be decided on intellectual grounds? So he's saying if you choose to have an emotional view of some subject, such that you don't think it can be rationally analyzed, you are then justified in using your emotions and faith in choosing whatever you choose to choose. It's no wonder that the guy was at Harvard. No wonder. Such nonsense couldn't come from any place else. Continuing with the tripe. One more point, small but important, and our preliminaries are done. There are two ways of looking at our duty in the matter of opinion. Ways entirely different, and yet ways about whose difference the theory of knowledge seems hitherto to have shown very little concern. We must know the truth, and we must avoid error. These are our first and great commandments as would-be knowers. K-N-O-W. But they are not two ways of stating an identical commandment. They are two separable laws. To say we must know the truth and we must avoid error. They are separable laws, he says. Although it may indeed happen that when we believe the truth, A, we escape as an incidental consequence from believing the falsehood, B, it hardly ever happens that by merely disbelieving B, we necessarily believe A. We may, in escaping B, fall into believing other falsehoods, C or D, just as bad as B, or we may escape B by not believing anything at all, not even A. I assert that that's not helpful unless we concretize that, but that's fine. Believe truth, shun error. These we see are two materially different laws. Do we see that? I didn't see that. Okay. Believe truth and shun error. By choosing between them, we may end by coloring differently our whole intellectual life. We may regard the chase for truth as paramount, and the avoidance of error as secondary. Or we may, on the other hand, treat the avoidance of error as more imperative, and let truth take its chance. Now, what if we avoided error? What if we never made any errors? Would we not then have the truth? This is a linguistic distinction, a semantic distinction. This is nonsense. Nonsense. A ivory tower justification of faith that is, you can see right through it. Any rational person can see straight through this nonsense. All this equivocation of changing, the context and the definition of a word in the middle of a sentence or an idea. Nonsense. Let us continue with the tripe. We may regard the chase for truth as paramount and the avoidance of error as secondary, or on the other hand, the avoidance of error is more imperative and let truth take its chance. Clifford, in the instructive passage which I have quoted, exhorts us to the latter course. Believe nothing, he tells us. Keep your mind in suspense forever, rather than by closing it on insufficient evidence, incur the awful risk of believing lies. Now, this is the idea of being open-minded. You don't want to be closed-minded, so you should be open-minded, right? Accept everything as possible until it's proven or demonstrated not possible. That's open-mindedness. I say, screw open-mindedness. Your brain falls out if you're open-minded. You should be objective. If someone comes along and says, I have evidence, you should be open to that. If they come along, though, and spout some stupid tripe, like this, or Gremlins on the far side of Mars, or anything else, any tripe, any arbitrary tripe, you can dismiss that. An objective person just says, I don't have time, I don't have the energy, I don't have any reason to investigate this. If you bring some evidence, then I'll have a reason to investigate. You haven't given me any reason to investigate whether or not there are green gremlins living on the far side of the moon that wear chainmail socks and study Hegel's logic. You haven't proven to me even the slightest hint that they might be there. So I'm gonna dismiss it out of hand as irrational nonsense. I'm not even gonna say it's false. I'm just gonna dismiss you and walk away from you. Dismiss it as arbitrary. You don't say it's false. You don't say it's true. You dismiss it as arbitrary. That's what you have to do with gremlins with chainmail socks on the far side of the moon studying Hegel's logic. No evidence for it. Dismiss it as arbitrary. Okay. Pardon that caveat. You, on the other hand, may think that the risk of being in error is a very small matter when compared with the blessings of real knowledge, and be ready to be duped many times in your investigation rather than postpone indefinitely the chance of guessing true. I myself find it impossible to go with Clifford. We must remember that these feelings of our duty about either truth or error are in any case only expressions of our passional life. Biologically considered, our minds are as ready to grind out falsehood as veracity. Now, is that a falsehood or is that true what he says there? He says that our minds are willing to grind out falsehood as much as veracity. He who says better go without belief forever than believe a lie merely shows his own preponderant private horror of becoming a dupe. He may be critical of many of his desires and fears, but this fear he slavishly obeys. He cannot imagine anyone questioning its blinding force. For my own part, I have also a horror of being duped, but I can't believe that worse things than being duped may happen to a man in this world. What does that mean, to be duped? I mean, that means that you accepted something as true, which in the end wasn't true. Now, that's not just a hazard of being alive, like he's asserting here. You should accept things as possibly true until proven, like, for example, the theory of gravity. You should say, well, it appears to me that it's true. I haven't read Newton's stuff myself, but for all intents and purposes, so you can't say, I know and understand that Newton's law of gravity is true, even though you've never read it. To belabor this point just a little bit, you don't know something until you know it. You can't accept it as true. You can't believe it as true. All you can say is, I've heard that other people say it's true. It seems to be true for all intents and purposes to me, but I don't know for sure. Like Einstein's theory of relativity. Are you sure? Newton's theory of gravity. Are you sure? Marxism. Are you sure? William James. Are you sure? Better be sure. So accept things only if you have seen the evidence for your own eyes. And I mean right down to Newton and reading Kant. Oh, there's the thing that haunts me. Fighting with Zorio about Immanuel Kant. I said you can know something without going to the original source. That haunts me even still. And so now I'm telling you, you have to go to the original source if you want to say that you believe this or that, X or Y or Z. But I was vindicated in that, because then Zorio went to the original source and read Kant on screen, and Qtron Man read Kant on screen, and Zorio still didn't come around. So I was totally vindicated. I was saying you can know a truth without totally focusing on nothing but the original source. I was saying there are other things we could look at about the original source which could tell us things about the source. And at all times you have to go to the source. That's fine. Zorio goes straight to the source and doesn't get any of it ever at all. So anyways, so Clifford's exhortation has to my ears a thoroughly fantastic sound. It is like a general informing his soldiers that it is better to keep out of battle forever than to risk a single wound. Not so our victories, either over enemies or over nature gained. Our errors are surely not such awfully solemn things. In a world where we are so certain